Have you ever heard of Minecraft? Of course you have. That's probably the dumbest question I could ask. Minecraft is one of the most famous games ever made. Almost everyone has played it, watched it, or at least heard of it. You spawn into a new world, punch a tree, build a base, mine diamonds, maybe beat the Ender Dragon, and then you start feeling like a god. But here's the thing. Every time you press create new world, you usually spawn as one character. Steve. At first, Steve looks innocent, just a blocky little guy in a blue shirt, trying to survive in a dangerous world. He fights zombies, builds houses, farms animals, and protects himself from monsters. But the deeper you go, and the deeper you look into Minecraft, the darker it gets. Because Steve is not just surviving. Steve is invading villages, stealing resources, and trapping innocent villagers, forcing them to work, breeding animals only to kill them, destroying ecosystems, and wiping out entire species, and building machines that exist only to farm death. So today, we're not talking about how much he can carry, how he can respawn forever, or how he can defeat a dragon with a bat. Today, we're asking a much darker question. Is Steve actually the villain of Minecraft? And how many crimes has this man committed? Let's start simple. The first thing most Minecraft players do is break trees, kill animals, and loot villages. On the surface, it sounds normal because it's just survival. But imagine this from the world's perspective. A random stranger appears out of nowhere, destroys the forest, steals crops, takes beds from villages, and robs their chests, and then leaves like nothing happened. Steve doesn't ask permission. Steve doesn't pay. Steve just takes. And that's only day one. Now let's talk about the villagers. Villagers are peaceful. They have homes, jobs, families, farms, and entire communities. They don't attack Steve. They don't start fights. They just live their lives. And what does Steve do? He kidnaps them with boats and minecarts, locks them in tiny rooms, forces them to change jobs until they give the right trade, and traps them forever inside trading halls. Some players even infect villagers with zombies, cure them, and repeat the process just to get cheaper prices. Think about it. Steve intentionally lets villagers get attacked, turns them into zombie, cures them, and then uses their trauma for a discount? This is not a business. This is a psychological warfare. Minecraft players call it efficiency. The villagers would probably call it a human rights violation. Now let's talk about iron farms, which is a brutal system. Sounds harmless, right? Free iron, but how do they work? Villagers are trapped in fear, constantly panicking because a zombie is placed near them. That fear causes iron golems to spawn, and those golems, which are literally created to protect villagers, are immediately burned, drowned, or killed for iron. Steve turns protection into production. This one is dark. Animals in Minecraft are not treated better. Cows, pigs, sheep, and chickens are trapped in fences, bred endlessly, and killed for food, leather, wool, or feathers. Steve creates an entire system where animals are born only to become resources. Now let's talk about environmental destruction. Steve also destroys the environment on a crazy scale. Entire deforestation. Mountains are carved open. Oceans are drained for monuments. Deserts are stripped for sand and villages are remodeled without consent. And if Steve needs space for a build, the land is gone. So when you really think about it, Steve might not be the hero of Minecraft. He's an immortal being who appears in a world that never asked for him, takes whatever he wants, destroys whatever in his way, traps entire populations, builds death machines, and then calls it progress. To us, to players, this is just Minecraft. To Steve, it's survival. But what about the everyone in the world? Steve might be in a horror story.